Welcome to another episode of What in the World is Happening. Today's topic is, what is spirituality and how do we recognize it? I'm Sabina Qureshi, broadcasting from Edmonton, Alberta, and with me today is Adrian Magana, broadcasting from San Diego. How are you doing, Adrian?
Hi, Sabina. I'm doing wonderful.
That's great.
Thank you for having me.
Well, you're welcome. It's great to have you on. I'm excited about this topic. It's very universal. And this is the show where we talk about Maitreya and the Masters of Wisdom. We broadcast live every second and fourth Saturday of the month on Zoom, Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitch. And at the end of each show, we do 30 minutes of transmission meditation, which is a group meditation open to everybody over the age of 12. It's free, and we hope you'll stick around and try some. You might really like it. And let's just go ahead and dive in. So when we talk about spirituality, we like to introduce something that we call the Ageless Wisdom teaching. And to preface that, we talk about the fact that we're going through a major transition right now. And this is something that is an astronomical fact. That is, it has nothing to do with beliefs, but it's about the transition of our solar system through what's called the precession of the equinoxes. We're moving around a giant kind of orbit through the skies, and every 2,125 years or so, we move into alignment with a different constellation. And right now we're moving out of our alignment with Pisces and into an alignment with Aquarius. So you will have heard people talking about the age of Aquarius. We're entering that age, and the energies from the constellation of Aquarius stimulate us in different ways than the energies that stream out of Pisces did. So the qualities that we're seeing manifesting and will continue to see manifesting more and more over the next age, which is a long time, over 2,000 years, are qualities of coming together, working together, synthesis, bringing together disparate elements. And that really translates into group consciousness, group work. And we're seeing that more and more in the world. And it also translates into making things real on the physical plane, saying it's not enough to have good thoughts. We have to make this real right here where we live. So we're seeing a lot of chaos right now in the world, because every time there's a transition like this, old structures are falling apart or no longer serve their purpose, and new structures haven't been built yet, new ways of doing things. So it's a moment of great uncertainty, but also a moment of great hope, because people are beginning to speak up and there's much more clarity about what's needed. And then what we'd like to do is just go ahead and talk about this Ageless Wisdom teaching, and what that is. Adrian, do you want to introduce this a little bit?
Sure. Most of the information that we're going to be sharing is known as the ancient wisdom teachings. And as you can see in the image, there are four proponents of this information: Helena Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, Helena Rorick, and Benjamin Creme. Most of the information that we will be sharing comes from Benjamin Creme himself. But his information is a summarized, synthesized knowledge that the three other ladies initially shared with us. Helena Blavatsky had physical contact with the masters. She traveled to the Himalayas and was trained in person from one of these masters. Alice Bailey and Helena Rorick, similar to Benjamin Creme, they had telepathic communication with the Masters of Wisdom. I believe that in a few more moments, we will be giving sharing what the Masters of Wisdoms are and what they do, how long have they been with us, and things like that. So yes, they wrote a whole selection of books that are easily available on the internet. Blavatsky wrote Isis Unveiled and The Secret Doctrine. Alice Bailey has about 20 books that you can find. And Lucy's Trust is the publisher. You can find them online, the full books. And then Helena Rorick wrote the Agni Yoga series. And the Rorick literature is beautiful. It was written, if you read it, it sounds like poetry, and it's very, very deep. All of this information is completely, it's always good to read it because it's always timely. The information never dies. The importance to be aware of what they were saying is constantly needed. And then, of course, Benjamin Creme, the founder of Share International, he wrote about, what, 18 books, I think, something like that. And his style, he summarizes a lot of the information previously given and makes it easier for the reader to understand. In particular, Blavatsky is very deep, and the way she shares the information, it requires previous knowledge of the esoteric information.
Well, and the thing, why do we call this the ageless wisdom teachings? Because these teachings really are the same teachings you'll find in all the major religions of the world. And in a way, they are synthesized here by these teachers in a way that is perhaps a little bit more universal, but it's recognizable as the same teaching. And that's what we believe. We believe that all religions teach the same essential truths, and that these truths are universal, and that they are equally uplifting and positive for everybody, regardless of which culture we may be living in, or which tradition we may have grown up in, or which we may still be part of. So this teaching doesn't conflict with any other teaching. I think it's more like a general underpinning. My experience personally is that I'm from a family in which my father came from a Muslim tradition and my mother from a Christian tradition. Neither of them were extremely active in their faiths. In fact, my father said he was an atheist, but I grew up surrounded by the culture of Islam. And so I always had this sense, just from being exposed to both these religions, that the teachings were the same, that they taught the same things. And so when I encountered this information, the Ageless Wisdom teachings, I was really happy to see something which brought it all together. And in the case of Benjamin Creme, as you were saying, his way of brings it very much up to date. It's very modern in a way. And so Benjamin Creme, as you said, was the founder of Share International, and he was also a painter and the editor of Share International magazine. And there are books, he's written about 16 books, I think 17 maybe, and 4 of them are available for free download. So if you're interested in any of what we're talking about, including the transmission meditation that we'll do at the end of the program, you can find these and just download them immediately at share-ecart.com. And let's go right into what is spirituality. We wanted to start today with one of the basic fundamental tenets of the way we see things, and that is that all people are divine, each and every one. And we could even extend that and say that all life is divine in every form. And of course, most of us might be familiar with the teaching, for example, in Buddhism or Hinduism, that every life is sacred, so you don't even want to step on an ant, for example. Now, I confess I don't follow that. If there's a wasp nest in my backyard, I will take measures if the wasps are in my way. I mean, if they're over in their corner and they're not disturbing me, then no problem. But the idea of divinity being everywhere, of course, we need to talk about, well, what do we mean by divine? How would you answer that, Adrian?
Well, I think divinity is our true nature. That's who we truly are. And divinity is where we come from. We are souls in incarnation. We come from something that is beautiful. That would be my explanation of what is divine. It's beautiful. It is pure love. It's eternal. And we come from there. And we actually, technically, we never really left. We are still part of that creation process. So that is our divinity, and that's who we truly are. We could also use the word we are souls in incarnation. And a soul will be the reflection of that divine pure essence of who we truly are. And
So,
yes?
sorry, would that somehow connect with the notion of God, what you're saying?
That is exactly one way to describe God. God is the creator. So there is a God within and a God without, and it's technically the same. We are created by God, and we are part of this creative process. So we are part of God. So all of us are gods. One way to say it is that we have the potential to discover these godlike abilities that, again, from one point of view, we never really lost. It is only our perception that we have lost this connection with our true nature, the divine nature. And this divine nature is in every single human, it's in every single creation throughout the universe. It is technically in every single atom. Every atom has the potential to demonstrate divinity. It never lost that connection. The process that we all go through in the movement is trying to recognize what I am talking about. This is remembering where we come from, is increasing our awareness so that we can come back in contact with this divinity and thus be able to manifest it. Let me jump back into what the masters of wisdom are. The masters are the individuals who already achieved this awareness that they are divine and that they are able to demonstrate that process of divinity in this particular planet, all right, within the human kingdom.
So they would be like the great oaks. If we think about this quote from Benjamin Creme, every little seedling is equal, but there are great oaks and little oaks. So in fact, all of us, as you say, have that divinity within us. We're in the process of discovering it and expressing it, but the masters of wisdom are people who are expressing more of it.
That's right. There are many ways to look at this, right? None of this is an absolute. This is all perception of how do we communicate these eternal truths, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And as I'm looking at this image you're sharing, I will compare humanity at this moment in history. We are these little seedlings. All of us have the potential to become great oaks, but at this point, the vast majority of humanity is not a tree yet. It's just seedlings with the potential of becoming great trees and provide everything that a tree provides, right? Oxygen, shade, it fits the soil. Now, there are what we will call initiates, people that are in between, that are growing a little faster than the average, and they are small trees, bigger trees, some of them. And then there are the masters, those who have achieved their full potential to a degree, because even the masters are still in the process of becoming something greater. But
Right.
to a degree, they have demonstrated their full potential, so they are the full-grown trees.
Right.
And they are able to do everything a full-grown tree will be able to do. At that point, they're actually looking to continue to look up because their process of evolution continues, and they are looking into their next stage.
And so we talk about the masters of wisdom, these people who have achieved a relative kind of perfection. To us, they are perfected people. And we talk about them as forming a group called the spiritual hierarchy. That's how we describe them, because even within their group, there are differences in degree of how far they've gone. And we also call them the Lords of Compassion because each of them has lived through all the experiences that there are that you can live through on Earth, through the process of reincarnation, which is part of the teaching of the Ageless Wisdom. And so they know all the things we struggle with and every experience that we go through. They have great compassion for us, never any judgment, because they know what this has been. They've walked in our shoes. They know exactly what it is. But to us, they appear perfect. though, as Adrian said, they're continuing to evolve themselves as well. They don't need to reincarnate any further on Earth. And those who choose to stay here do so to serve, to be of service. And that's why they continue here. They have total mastery over themselves. That is, they're completely harmless. They cause no harm. And they also have mastery over the laws of nature. So we have talked on previous programs about encounters with masters of wisdom. Many people around the world all the time on a regular basis do meet masters of wisdom, people who they may not think to themselves, this is a master of wisdom, but there will be something about that person that will impact them and stay with them, uplift them, comfort them, console them. The masters of wisdom are also the first responders at all disasters, whether these are war zones or natural disasters. So they're very much involved in our lives. And they are part of, excuse me, the great plan of evolution, which our planet is embarked on. It's a process of evolution for all life streams on this planet. Every single type of life is evolving, not just the human kingdom. And so it's a very dynamic process that's taking place. And the Masters of Wisdom are intimately involved with that. They help to make sure that things go well. And for example, that we don't, destroy ourselves and the whole work. And they're returning now to work outwardly with us. So they've been here all the time, but they've been living mainly in places that are far from our hustle and bustle, from our cities, in the high mountains, in the deserts. And now one of the major events that's taking place is that they are returning to our lives, that is our everyday lives. They're returning to work with us openly. And this is a big step for them and for us. And it will mean a lot in terms of how we're able to move ahead and out of this time of crisis and into a better way of doing things. And we're seeing signs that people are very aware of the need for that. And there are clear signposts that that is humanity as a whole is ready to take those steps. And with them returns Maitreya, who's one of the masters of wisdom. Adrian, do you want to talk about Maitreya a little bit?
Sure. Can I talk a little bit more about the masters?
Of course.
I wanted to say a few things from the previous slide. Everything in the cosmos is going through a process of evolution. And here in this planet, the process of evolution goes from the different kingdoms moving up into the kingdom above. So from the mineral kingdom comes the vegetable kingdom. Out of the vegetable kingdom comes the animal kingdom. Out of the animal kingdom came the human kingdom, to which we belong. And then the whole idea is that all of us members of the human kingdom will eventually enter the spiritual kingdom, the spiritual hierarchy. So the masters of wisdom are those students, let's say the A+ students, the top of the class students that already went through all this process. Once you reach that stage, you have two options. One is that you can continue this cosmic process of evolution and you can move on to different stages throughout the cosmos, or you can choose to stay here and guide humanity. Thus, we look at them as the elder brothers because they look at us as the younger brothers that still need guidance. And those
they continue evolving even here, though, right?
The process of evolution never ends. How it manifests changes whether you evolve in this planet or you do it in different areas of the solar system or other solar systems. But nothing that we do, because everything is energy, nothing that we do is ever lost. So whatever the masters are doing right now counts through their process of evolution. So whenever they move on, they can either move up faster or steady. There's always different processes. Those who choose to stay here teach by demonstrating everything that they went through, right? And basically is the total mastery of them over themselves, as it is said there, and teaching us the laws of nature, which basically the laws of nature are the laws of love. We are here to demonstrate love, and to simplify it, we're here to be nice to each other, and we're here to be nice to each other, not only within the human family, but also to the lower kingdoms. The topic of this presentation is spirituality, and technically the purpose of the human, because the human kingdom is the link between the lower kingdoms and the spiritual kingdom. And our mission is to get everything that the spiritual kingdom is able to offer, so that we can transform it and share it with the lower kingdoms. And thus we spiritualize matter. And the whole purpose of the human kingdom is to spiritualize matter. And we do that, one, by individually becoming the best that we can be, developing our awareness, returning to our divinity, rediscovering our divinity, but also as a group. And that is the beauty of the age that we're moving into, the age of Aquarius, because one of these qualities is group work. And technically, the only way that we manifest the energies of Aquarius is through group work. So humanity needs to get together, work together in the same direction with the same goals, so that we can not only help humanity and heal all the problems that we now suffer, and there are many, but also we begin to help the lower kingdoms so that they can move up in this process of evolution. And by doing that, the planet, which is a living thing, and all the living kingdoms are living aspects of this planet, then this planet can also become a spiritual planet. The planet itself evolves and enters the next stage. And that is what Maitreya is here to do. And Maitreya and the masters is to help us reach that stage. Okay, so Maitreya is the master that comes to embody all the energies of the present age, the age of Aquarius. He is also known as the embodiment of one particular energy, and that is the energy of love. And by doing so, he is also known as the Christ, because he embodies the energy of love. And when I use the word Christ, I am not trying to use the Christian tradition as the main tradition, right? Like we were talking earlier, the Ageless Wisdom teachings are the root teachings of all the traditions. But the term Christ does represent the great teacher that embodies the energy of love. Maitreya, also part of the story, is that in this process of evolution, he was the first human being, along with his brother, the Buddha, that graduated through this process of evolution and became a master. He is the first one out of the human kingdom that reached that stage. At that point, he decided to stay with us and oversee the process of evolution for humanity. Ever since, he's been living in the Himalayas and has been seeing this process of evolution, guiding humanity in different ways. One of the techniques that masters use, and in particular Maitreya, is that he overshadows certain disciples so that his knowledge, his energy is released on the planet at different times throughout the history. One of his most famous disciples is the Master Jesus. So the Master Jesus was overshadowed by Maitreya 2,000 years ago to inaugurate the age of Pisces. This time, the process is a little bit different. He is coming himself to inaugurate the age of Aquarius and to stay with us throughout the age of Aquarius to release his energy and his information. He is expected by all the major religions, and not only religions, but traditions themselves. If you're a Christian, as I said, he is known as the Christ. If you're a Muslim, he's also known as the Imam Mahdi. The Hindus expect the Kalki avatar. The Jewish tradition is still waiting for the Messiah. And the Buddhists expect the return of the Buddha, the fifth Buddha. And as we know, they also respect Maitreya Buddha. They do have the name correct. Maitreya Buddha, they're expecting him to return. Most Buddhists expect him to return thousands of years into the future. The information that we have from Benjamin Creme and Blavatsky, Bailey, and Rorik is that Maitreya is here. The Buddha is here. He will be with us.
Oh, sorry.
I was just going down the list, but go ahead.
Well, I just thought when you said he's here, I thought, let me move to this slide where we see an image of him when he appeared in Nairobi, Kenya in 1988. This was confirmed by Benjamin Creme's master, one of the masters of wisdom, that this man who appeared out of thin air at a religious meeting held by Maria Katsa, the woman in blue, that he was Maitreya, in fact. And he spoke to the crowd for a few minutes in perfect unaccented Swahili. And there were many healings that took place. People recognized him as the Christ. And then he left shortly after. And this can be read about in the Kenya Times. It was published at the time there and also taken up by media around the world. So if you're interested in this, just look for Maitreya in Nairobi, Kenya, 1988. Last week, 2 weeks ago in the previous show, we did talk about Maitreya's appearances around the world. And we will continue to do that in a future program. So there's a lot of evidence, if you're looking for it, of Maitreya's presence in the world.
Yes, that was actually a beautiful moment. It was a Christian gathering, right? So that's why they recognize him as the Christ. Also, during one of the events that we were doing here in San Diego, immigrants from Iran stopped by the booth and they were staring. We have a big pop-up of one of the images of Maitreya, and they were staring at him. And they asked us, who is this gentleman? And we told them this is Maitreya. And they also asked us, why is he wearing those particular garments? And I didn't have an answer because I didn't know. They told us that those are baptism garments of the Iranian branch of Christianity. So he is baptizing. That's the information that we got. He seems to be baptizing this group of Christians at that particular time. That information was never confirmed by Benjamin Creme, but this is something that we got from immigrants here in San Diego that are from, I forget the particular branch of Christianity that is practiced in Iran.
I don't know either.
This is the top of my tongue and I cannot remember at this time, but it's interesting though. Those are typical baptism garments according to them.
Well, yeah, that is interesting. And as you were saying, Maitreya is the head of the spiritual kingdom. He's sort of the eldest brother, and he embodies continuous unconditional love. And that connection of love is something that all of us can feel. I mean, he says himself in messages that he released to the world through Benjamin Creme that he is in each of our hearts. And so we are connected with him already. And that makes sense. If you also consider what we were saying earlier about how the divine spark is in each of us. So clearly that way of connecting exists for each and every single person. And you, Adrian, you mentioned how the different religions and traditions expect a great teacher. And this is just the list that you were talking about earlier, the name that each of these traditions expects him by. But he himself has said that those are names that we, humanity, have given to him, but he doesn't see himself as specifically any one of these because he's here for everybody, including people who are not part of any tradition or are part of a tradition that doesn't have one of these names. So he sees himself as a teacher for everybody.
Yes,
And
that is correct. He holds himself as, he wants to be known as the world teacher, even though he does hold the position of the Christ, but that is really not relevant, to be honest, the specific position that he holds. He is a world teacher because that is his main role, is to teach humanity, right? The laws of life, the laws of love. And if we say that he's the Christ, that term does tend to polarize and separate people that do not follow the Christian tradition. That's why he prefers to be known as a teacher, and that is his role.
And of course, teaching us to live in peace means necessarily that we have to learn how to share the resources of the earth, because there's no other way that we can have peace if we don't share. As long as people are suffering, starving, living in poverty, there can be no peace, because this major injustice creates tension in the world, and that tension leads inevitably to some form of destruction. And so it's necessary to rectify that and to create equilibrium. And the only way really is through sharing. And I think we all know that on some instinctive level. We've all been a part of groups, for example, even in childhood. If you have groups of children and one group have something and another don't, and the ones who don't have it see the ones who have it, well, they're not going to be happy until they also have the same thing. And I'm not saying that we're children in that sense, but it's kind of very basic, the idea that we need to be able to create a sufficient standard of living for everybody. Everyone has to have sufficient and correct food and water, housing, shelter, education, healthcare. These are basic needs. And in fact, they've been enshrined in the UN Declaration of Human Rights, that they are basic human rights. Each and every one of us has a right to these simply by virtue of existing. It's not something you earn. It's something you already have a right to. And so as long as we're not working in the world in a way that ensures that everyone has these, we're in a way just contributing to continual imbalance, tension, and problems.
Yes, that's right. Regarding sharing, there are two aspects about sharing. One is the practical that you just mentioned, and that is the most powerful tool that we have right now to correct all the problems that we have: poverty, hunger, housing, healthcare. We need to share everything, all the knowledge that we have in those areas, and all the products that come about all of this, so that everybody has access to all these processes and in humanity. But there is another aspect about sharing in this. It has to do with the topic of this presentation, and that's the spiritual aspect of sharing. As we said in the beginning, we are divine beings. We are souls in incarnation, and souls are constantly sharing, because sharing demonstrates that there is no separation. So when we share individually, when an individual gives selflessly to another person that is in need, the act of sharing, we are demonstrating love. Thus, we are engaging in a spiritual action. Any action that takes us to a greater future is a spiritual action. So sharing is the most basic and technically the most powerful action that we can take. It is very basic, and it defies the laws of physics. It is the intention that is important. It doesn't really matter if you're sharing a small amount of something, right? Whether if it's just $1 to somebody that is in need, so that this person can buy a cup of coffee, so that he can wake up and go to work. But it's the action behind it, that you are demonstrating love. So you're putting the laws of love in action. And that is very powerful, because that extends. And that energy is an invisible energy. The energy of love begins to multiply. And it also, as I said before, it doesn't follow the laws of physics. The more you give, the more you receive. It's not a zero-sum game. If you give, that doesn't mean all of a sudden you don't have it. No, quite the opposite, all right? But now we're entering into the laws of karma. You are you are creating love, and thus you will receive love. And the more love that we put out there, or we manifest, and then the more love that can manifest back, in a sense.
And this idea that everything which moves us forward and develops and makes us grow, that is essentially spiritual. It's something that's been said by one of the masters of wisdom, the master Joao Kuhl. And I think it's a really powerful statement, because it's something that applies to any type of endeavor. And it's not limited to the things that people perhaps traditionally consider spiritual, which may be related to religion or some type of sort of focus inwards into yourself. But what he's saying really is that anything, absolutely anything, social, it could be intellectual, it could be physical, it's in any sphere, if it moves you forward, and so that you become more, your state changes, you advance in a sense, that is spiritual in nature. And he says it indicates the livingness of the inner divine entity, so that what we are, this quality, this energy, this presence, what we consider ourselves, which is not just our physical body, but this, what we here think of as the divine inside of us, the soul. That is what you see in action when you see somebody working to improve or expand or be more, do more, know more. It's the soul. That's what's working through us. And so I think this is very powerful. It's because it embraces everything. It's very, very vast. There's nothing that's not part of that.
That is correct. And going back to the example we were using earlier regarding the trees, the oak trees. Technically, all of us can go from a seed to a full-grown tree in a short span of time. The rate of evolution is set by individually. We decide whether we know it or not, how fast we evolve. And the magic formula to evolve faster is manifesting love. And the best and the easiest way to manifest love in this particular time is through sharing. So if you want to move up and become a greater tree, sharing is the key. It also, like I said earlier, it has the, in this particular time, that there are many things that we could do to solve the problems that we face. It is through sharing. It will do wonders not only to the individual, but also to the groups that are sharing, in particular nations. The nations that are able to share, there will be great rewards, not only in this kingdom, but in the kingdom above, to those who share.
That's right. And just more on that same line of thinking, that what we're going to be doing during this coming age is we will be expanding our idea of spiritual, so that it includes every aspect of our being. And we'll come to understand that even areas of life that we think are quite remote from spirituality, such as politics, for example, or economics, they also not only can be spiritual, but need to be spiritual. That is, we need to do those things in a way that allows who we are to be expressed and to be served. And in a way, we know this on some level. We call people in politics civil servants, or they're public servants. We use the word servant. And so there's an awareness in some way that those posts, those jobs are about service. I think perhaps in the area of economics, that's not yet very apparent, but it's coming, because people are talking more and more about the fact that the way that our economies work do not serve the needs of people. They serve only the needs of a very small group. And in fact, one of the things that Benjamin Crem's master says is that we have built systems. The systems we now live within they are based on wrong principles, principles such as, well, if you want to call it a principle, competition, division, separatism, and inequality. And all of these are in direct opposition to the inner reality, which is that we're all the same fundamentally, and we're all equally deserving of all of the basics of life and all of the opportunities of life. And so we know that the systems we've built right now don't work, and we know that they condemn millions of people to lives of misery and just really lack of any opportunity at all, even lack of the basics to survive. And so that's the very first priority for Maitreya, is to make sure that the fundamentals of life are provided for everybody, every single person. He considers what's happening now a crime against humanity, which indeed it is.
It is, it is. That is a beautifully disturbing image, but it really represents where we are, and the fact that most, if not all of the systems that we have created at this point are going in the wrong direction. And they are not manifesting any spiritual principle. In reality, every action that we take could be a spiritual action. Like I said before, every action that we take that is for the betterment of humanity, it's not only for the betterment of the self, but it's for the betterment of humanity, is a spiritual action. And they become more powerful when we use them in specific areas that are very important and powerful these days. We were talking about the politics and economics at this particular time. It's very important that we recognize that they need to be spiritual, right? Also education. I think we need to recognize that education has to have a spiritual aspect. As we said before, that doesn't mean religion. We're talking about a spiritual. And what we're talking about is that we need to recognize that divinity that we all have. I think education has to begin to teach, and Benjamin Crane says it on a lot of his books, that education in the new age will begin to teach us that we are divine beings, and that we are here to slowly learn all the aspects that enrich that ability to demonstrate divinity in our daily lives. When we begin to do that, and we begin to also recognize the divinity in everybody and in all of our brothers and sisters, then we can move forward. And if we begin to do that, recognize that everybody is divine, we can also recognize that very few of us are able to manifest that divinity right now. Not because we don't have the means to do so, but because we are distracted. A big percentage of humanity is going out every day trying to find food and trying to find means of survival. That's why it is so important that politics and economics become spiritual in action, so that everybody can have a great quality of life. Then we can move on and begin to teach spiritual principles in education, in the arts, and like I said, in every endeavor that we can think.
And, you know, following on what you're saying, Adrian, harmlessness is essential, because as long as we are causing harm, we're putting things out of balance. And we see that in our current economics, which cause great harm, not only to the environment, the physical environment, but to people's lives, by forcing people into poverty, into precarious employment, into lack of employment, or simply lack of the ability to earn enough to feed themselves and their families. And we also see politics being done in a very destructive way, waging war, causing great suffering. So harmlessness as a fundamental principle is essential. And it's the only way we can really move forward. And we see that there's this growing recognition among people for the need for harmlessness. We have these days very strong movements, environmentally speaking, of people and lots of young people talking about climate change and saying we can't continue to harm our planet because we need our planet to be in good health. Otherwise, how will we survive? And so the law of cause and effect comes into play here, the recognition that for every action, there is an effect. And we can't act with impunity. No one can. Of course, it appears some people are acting with impunity in the sense that they don't seem to suffer consequences for their actions. Other people suffer the consequences. But these causes and these effects have a destabilizing action on the whole system, because it's all connected. And so that's a type of recognition that we're starting to see the seeds of, but we're still a ways away from actually implementing that at a general level. But the teachings of the master say that that is coming, that we're heading in that direction.
Yes, I think now you're talking about karma, and
Yeah.
yes, that is correct, because that's basically what karma is the law of cause and effect. And you mentioned that a lot of the actions right now of the people that have the ability and hold power, they don't seem to be affected, but that's key. They don't seem to be affected, right? Every action that we take eventually has a reaction. That's why the law of harmlessness is so important. And the sooner we learn that, the sooner it is better for everybody. Again, individually is very important, but as we move into the age of Aquarius, to be able to manifest harmlessness as a group, it will be key for the process of evolution in every area.
Yeah.
And again, like everything, it begins with the individual. We need to recognize that at the individual level and begin to take actions that are harmless, that will allow the individual to go through the process of evolution at a faster rate. But more important, when we begin to recognize this oneness that surrounds us, that we are all parts of this one family, the human family, and that when we do harm to another member of this human family, we are technically harming ourselves, whether we know it or not. And the opposite also works. When we're helping other members of the human family, we are helping ourselves. And then we can progress together. And not only progress, but we can speed up this process of moving forward.
Indeed. And I think we're reaching the moment that we will talk a little bit about transmission meditation, which is a very potent way of moving forward, evolving, and also helping the whole system, the whole world in that process of moving forward. And so I'll just go to our attributions here and to our resources. You can find all of this information and much more on share-international.org. You can also watch videos of Benjamin Creme speaking on the Share International channel on YouTube. And as we previously mentioned, you can find Benjamin Creme's books at share-ecart.com. And there are 4 books that are available for free download. One of them is titled The Ageless Wisdom Teaching. And there's also a book on transmission meditation, and 2 other books, The World Teacher for All Humanity and The Awakening of Humanity. And this is very much a hopeful message. We talk about the fact that humanity is moving in the right direction despite appearances, and that the outlook is positive. And this is what the Masters of Wisdom tell us. You can also read more in Share International magazine, available at share-ecart.com. You can read abridged versions of the magazine on share-international.org, also in other languages as well, not just English. And now to talk about transmission meditation briefly before we do it, because it's very, very simple, and anyone can do this. It requires no previous training. It doesn't conflict with any other tradition or any other practice you might be doing. In fact, it will enhance anything else that you're engaged in, whether it's yoga or prayer group or anything. So this is a group meditation. It's done in groups. And until the pandemic, people would go and meet together in a bookshop or at someone's home, a library, to do this meditation. Since the pandemic, people have been meeting online using Zoom mostly. And so you're welcome to join any of the Zoom transmission groups that are available. You'll see in the chat links that you can use to connect to them. Today, we'll do this meditation right here on the show, connecting as we are through Zoom, Facebook, whichever platform you're watching this on. And so just to explain how to do it very briefly, we start by saying a mantra together, which we will put on the screen. And then we just hold our focus right here at this spot between the eyebrows. That's the location of one of the chakras, which are energy vortices. They are the locations where our etheric or energy body connects with our physical body. And this particular one here is called the Ajna Center. So what we do during the meditation is we simply hold our attention on this spot. And if we notice that our awareness has moved away from there, we say the word Om silently, mentally, in our mind only, not with our voice. And that will bring our attention back to this spot. It's a very simple thing. It's not actually very complex. And some people will feel energies. Some people will be aware of energies flowing through their chakras. Other people will not be. But that doesn't mean it isn't working or that you're not actually meditating. It has to do with the differences in sensitivity of different people's physical bodies. And it doesn't mean that someone who can feel it is somehow doing something better or more correct. It's just a difference in awareness. That's all it is.
It's also a different of the constitution of your vehicles, your physical and astral and mental, right? Some people can sense energies more than others. Can I add a few other things regarding meditation?
Of course, please do.
And going back to the analogy we used earlier, the oak trees and the process of evolution. The basic formula for evolving and speeding up this process is doing some type of service and meditation. That is the formula. And transmission meditation uses both at the same time. One is the process of meditation, and as my experience, this is the most powerful meditation that is available on the planet right now. But it's also a service meditation, because what we are doing is that we are transmitting energies. These are energies, cosmic energies, that flow and are guided by the masters. The masters direct these energies and they send them to the group. The group has to have the scientific formula that it has to have those groups that are able to meet in person. You need 3 members to create a basic triangle. Once you have a triangle, then the masters can send these energies and then they guide these energies. So these energies flow through our vehicles, our chakras, and the masters are in control. They can see how evolved the individual is, so they can see how much of energy they can send through this individual and through the group itself. And then these energies go out into the world, and they can direct them to do whatever they need to be done with them. We evolve because we are being of service to the masters, and we evolve because we are doing this very powerful meditation that is an exercise of self-realization. Any meditation that you practice is an exercise in rediscovering your divinity. It has to do just how often you do the practice and how engaged you are in the practice. It has to require honesty when you're doing the practice. And it also requires detachment, that you are doing the practice not necessarily because you want to evolve faster, but you're doing the practice because you want to be of service.
Well, and I think, Adrian, isn't it true that most people who start doing this meditation and then continue to do it, they continue because they're drawn to it. There's a feeling of needing and wanting to do it. And I think the energies themselves, when you're doing this meditation, they change you, as you were saying earlier, that they cause you to evolve, and you become, I don't know the right word, perhaps addicted isn't the right word, but it's kind of like when you feel something that's good for you, you want more of it, and something in you just knows that and responds to it. And the service aspect, the fact that it's of service at the same time, is quite wonderful, because many of us have very busy lives and we may want to be of service in the world. Maybe we can help out a little by donating to some charities or NGOs, but many people don't have time to be actively involved in service work. So this meditation is something you can do very easily. And for example, a few hours a week, you're already having a great effect. And it's kind of, you get a lot of value for your time, really.
Yes, and I will say that there's a silver lining to the pandemic, is that these meditations, these groups went online. So now it is easier for those who are trying it for the first time. You don't have to leave your home. You can do it right from the comfort of your living room and just join a Zoom meeting. I am not aware how powerful they are compared to in person. When we do it through Zoom, I think we're using the Alice Bailey technique, which is triangle meditation. If you do it through Zoom, it helps to visualize the other members that are doing the meditation at the same time. It seems to establish the connection. If you're familiar with the other members that are meditating at the same time, it is recommended that you visualize. And if you can visualize a stream of energy flowing from your third eye, connecting with the other members, is also very helpful, because as we know, energy follows thought. So if you can do a form of visualization, then you are augmenting the potencies.
Right. And sorry?
Sorry, and this meditation, like you said before, it doesn't hinder any other practice that you do. It actually is beneficial to any other practice that you're already doing, any other kind of meditation that you might be already doing, or any other exercise, any kind of a spiritual exercise or spiritual practice that you are engaged in.
And you don't have to believe in anything to do it. It'll just work. And you can try it and see for yourself. So we invite you to join us. At the very beginning, the first thing we do is we say together a mantra called the Great Invocation. This has been translated into many languages around the world, and there are transmission groups in, well, not all the countries of the world, but a large number of countries in the world. And they are using the Great Invocation in their own language. We, of course, use it in English. So what we do is first we say this together aloud, and then we sit and focus on the Ajna Center, and we'll meditate for half an hour, and then we'll come back and say goodbye and just invite you to join us for the next program in 2 weeks. But the Great Invocation is a very powerful mantra. It is a way of communicating to the masters that we're ready to start meditating, so that they can begin sending these energies through our chakras. So I invite you to join us. Adrian, would you like to say the Great Invocation?
Sure, I will. I will take a pause in between stanzas. That is recommended in case you're doing a visualization at the same time. It helps you visualize the stanzas.
Okay, and I will mute out so that I can say it as well, but not get interference with both of our voices at the same time. And I'll set my timer for 30 minutes.
All right, relax, sit comfortable. Remember to focus on the third eye, the Ajna Center. Close your eyes. From the point of light within the mind of God, let light stream forth into the minds of men. Let light descend on earth. From the point of love within the heart of God, let love stream forth into the hearts of men. May Christ return to earth. From the center where the will of God is known, let purpose guide the little wills of men, the purpose which the masters know and serve. From the center which we call the race of men, let the plan of love and light work out, and may it seal the door where evil dwells. Let light and love and power restore the plan on earth.
And that was Transmission Meditation. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope you had a wonderful experience. And remember that you can join any of the Zoom transmission groups. Just look in the chat for the links, or you can create your own group. You only need to be 3 people. So if you have 2 friends or family members, roommates who are interested, this is something you can do easily, perhaps even in your own home. We'd like to just say that if this information resonates for you, please share the link to this video. Other people may also enjoy finding out more about this. We'll be back in 2 weeks on September 11th, and our show then will be an ageless wisdom perspective on 9/11 and the possibilities for a lasting peace. So we hope you come back and join us then. It'll be great. And Adrian, thank you for being here this week. It was really nice to do this topic with you. And I look forward to future shows with you. I'd like to thank our tech crew, John in Montgomery, Alabama, and Cielito in Seattle, Washington. And we look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks. Thanks for being here.